Yeah.
Them hands
Now
quick.
that was funny.
Say thanks, Drake.
He poured it in.
According to reports following his performance at the tragic Travis Scott Astroworld Festival, Drake was spotted tossing about $1 million on the floor of the Area 29 strip club in Houston. As per the New York Post, following the tragic Astroworld Festival in Houston, Drake was spotted the next day dropping roughly $1 million at a strip club. It's a weird way to be viewed after releasing such a heartfelt apology, but I suppose we all grieve differently. In a since deleted video, women are seen scooping up a ton of cash as they say to the camera, "Thanks, Drake." And in another post from the Area 29 club, they even tagged Drake in the caption to let people know that he came through. In the deleted post they said, "Thank you Champagne Poppy, Roddy Rich," then they tag like 8 more people and say, "Last night vibes was on point, grand finale tonight, Sunday fun day." Okay, so let's get this timeline correct, shall we? Drake went to this club the day after the festival tragedy, and according to TMZ, he also hosted an after party at Dave & Buster's in Houston the night of the tragedy as well. According to reports, this is where Travis also was notified that 8 people had lost their lives during his show and hundreds more had been injured by a crowd surge. TMZ reported that Travis immediately left the party after finding out. One source goes on to say, "Travis didn't know the severity of the situation when he arrived at the party. As far as timing, this remains consistent with the fact that no one, including the police, had publicly confirmed the gravity of the events that had taken place." The party that everyone went to afterwards was apparently a pre-scheduled event hosted by Drake, as I mentioned earlier, who also allegedly had no idea that anything awful had taken place during the festival. Another source close to this after-party celebration said that most of them did know that people had died during the show, but that they didn't take it seriously because they assumed that it had something to do with an overdose. They go on to say, "Everyone knew people died, but it wasn't taken that seriously because some thought it was drug deaths. They didn't realize. But celebrities, they should have just had grace and canceled everything." Then 2 days later, Drake broke his silence on the matter and said, "I spent the past few days trying to wrap my mind around this devastating tragedy. I hate resorting to this platform to express an emotion as delicate as grief, but this is where I find myself. My heart is broken for the families and friends of those who lost their lives and for anyone who is suffering. I will continue to pray for all of them and will be of service in any way I can. May God be with you all." Drake is also apparently a regular at this club and also is rumored to have gone in the days before the tragedy as well. I don't really know what's going through their minds when they decide to party after such a horrific event, but I'm sure they'll wake up soon. As of now, there are more than 100 lawsuits that have already been filed against Travis Scott, Drake, and Live Nation. Following the Astroworld Festival tragedy, many big brands like McDonald's and Epic Games immediately distanced themselves from Travis Scott after previously working with him. And now it seems as though Nike is deciding to do the same thing after announcing that they will be postponing the Travis Scott Air Max 1 release. According to some recent reports, Travis Scott's newest collaboration with Nike will not be making its way to the shelves. Due to the recent events that took place at Astroworld, the company has decided to postpone Travis Scott's collaboration shoe, which was going to be called the Air Max 1 by Cactus Jack. This is going to be another big financial loss for Travis because the shoes were supposed to drop on December 16th at 7 a.m., which would have been just in time for the holidays and probably would have brought him in a ton of cash. In a statement, Nike said to the press, "Out of respect for everyone impacted by the tragic events at the Astroworld Festival, we are postponing the launch of the Air Max 1 by Cactus Jack." This move by Nike came soon after the news of 9-year-old Ezra Blount's passing, making him the 10th concert goer to lose their life because of the mayhem at the festival. On top of that, the Houston Rockets also decided to cancel a promo event they had scheduled called Travis Scott Night. In lieu of this Travis Scott Night, they decided to have a moment of silence for the victims of this tragedy. As I mentioned in the intro, even the mega fast food chain McDonald's is severing ties with Travis Scott following the controversy with Astroworld. Back in September of 2020, McDonald's announced their collaboration and launched the Travis Scott meal. However, both he and the location in Downey, California were fined after holding a promo event that brought in a crowd of 500 crazy fans. There were so many people jammed into the McDonald's just pushing and shoving each other that Scott's security team even had to push him back through the crowd. In a tweet condemning this event, the Downey police said, "Today's Travis Scott appearance at McDonald's was neither approved nor permitted by the city of Downey. DPD units were dispatched in response to a large crowd gathered and focused on traffic and pedestrian safety concerns until the crowd dispersed. No injuries were reported." So from the jump, they experienced controversy while collabing with Travis Scott, and now they definitely don't want to be partnering up again. And despite Epic Games working with Travis a lot before this, they too are distancing themselves as well. Anyone who associates with Travis right now after this incident will certainly face a bit of controversy themselves, and so So to get ahead of that, Epic Games removed all of Travis Scott's unique emotes from their Fortnite item shop. There is also a Travis Scott skin as well that apparently thousands of players have in their inventory, and although it's unknown if they will remove them as well, one thing is for sure, these two will definitely not be collaborating again either. Now all of that being said, there will be something interesting that happens here with Travis Scott merch. Currently Travis Scott's Air Jordan 1s are being put up on resale sites for a minimum of $1,500. I think with there being no word on when he will collaborate again with Nike, that suddenly made any product that he collabed on previously just shoot up in value. Even though all of this tragedy happened, there are still going to be hardcore Travis Scott fans out there. I just hope that other artists can learn from what took place at Astroworld and understand the impact that a disaster like this can have.
Kylie Jenner has officially left Houston following the Astroworld tragedy, leaving Travis behind in the city to deal with the situation himself. It seems that Kylie is done supporting Travis and is headed back to LA to get the crisis with her own company under control. It's been reported that Kylie left Travis's $14 million mansion in the middle of the night and went in secret so she would not be detected. She even left her $72 million pink plane in Houston and took another one back to ensure her departure was kept a secret. A source told The Sun, quote, Kylie and her team waited until it was late and left the house in blacked out cars headed for the airport. They didn't want anyone to see them. Apparently the move is so that Kylie can be back with her mother and manager Kris Jenner, who has been in crisis mode trying to handle the situation since disaster struck. Radar reported that Travis was seen outside of his mansion for the first time the other day, pacing back and forth on an intense phone call. His lawyer showed up to his home shortly after. The festival took place November 5th. It has left 10 people dead and hundreds injured. Kylie and Kendall Jenner were at the festival in the VIP section watching the show with Stormy. Following the tragedy, Kylie released a statement saying that her and Travis were not aware of the seriousness of the situation while he was performing. She said in the statement, quote, I want to make it clear that we weren't aware of any fatalities until the news came out after the show, and in no world would we have continued filming or performing. One insider backed up this claim, saying, quote, they found out after the show on Friday that people had died, but they were initially told it was someone injecting drugs and that a number of people went into cardiac arrest in the same spot. They had no idea of what truly happened until much later on, and they are heartbroken over the situation. However, fans aren't listening to her excuses and are taking their anger out on her billion-dollar business, Kylie Cosmetics. Tons of videos have been circulating of people throwing their Kylie Cosmetics products into the trash and telling others to do the same if they want Kylie and Travis to pay for the lives lost. This along with the total boycott of her brand. Fans have also been boycotting Travis Scott's music, and they have blocked him as an artist on their Spotify accounts so his music will never be accidentally played by them. Kris Jenner has been working damage control since the event took place. The source said that Kylie is, quote, working closely with her mom as both her manager, but she's also leaning on her for emotional support. An insider told The Sun, quote, Kris is in crisis mode and still figuring out how to handle this best. Following the Astrowrorld tragedy, Travis Scott and the event organizers are being slammed with lawsuits from attendees and the families of those that passed away. As of now, it looks like the number of lawsuits are in the hundreds, and the payouts from these suits could be enough to bankrupt Travis Scott and even huge companies like Live Nation. Top 10 lawsuits that could end Travis Scott's career. In at number 10, Ezra Blount. 9-year-old Ezra Blount has just been confirmed as deceased following a long battle for his life caused by injuries at the festival. His family said Ezra spent more than a week in a medically induced coma. Ezra went to the festival with his father Treston. Apparently Treston had Ezra on his shoulders during the crowd surge for protection. Treston said on his GoFundMe page, quote, I began to be crushed until I couldn't breathe. I passed out and I woke up and my son was gone. His family is now suing Scoremore, Live Nation, Travis Scott, and his Cactus Jack Records as some of the defendants. Attorney Ben Crump and his co-counsel said in a statement, quote, the Blount family tonight is grieving the incomprehensible loss of their precious young son. This should not have been the outcome of taking their son to a concert, which should have been a joyful celebration. In at number 9, Madison Dubisky. Madison was 23 years old at the time of her death. She was a varsity cheerleader and a member of the National Charity League. She lived in Houston and was working at a marketing company. Madison attended the Astroworld Festival with their younger brother Ty. The pair were together until the crowd rushed forward and they were pulled apart. According to the Houston Chronicle, Madison was, quote, sucked into the crowd while her brother tried to pull her to safety. Following her death, her family has sued all parties responsible for the festival in a wrongful death suit. The lawsuit is against Live Nation, Scoremore, ASM Global, Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation, Val Services, and Travis Scott. In a statement, their attorney said that the tragedy was preventable and this suit will be used to uncover what went wrong to see that this never happens again. The family is seeking $1 million in damages. In at number 8, Manuel Souza. Manuel Souza was the first person to file a lawsuit after the tragedy. Souza states that he was badly badly injured during the chaos because the festival organizers ignored potential warning signs that compromised the safety of the event before performances had even started. This is shown in videos where countless fans are seen jumping over then breaking down one of the fences at the festival in broad daylight. The suit then goes after concert organizers, who continued to let Travis perform after the event was labeled a mass casualty event. The concert continued after ambulances had arrived to treat attendees who had, quote, suffered serious obvious injury. Steve Kirker, Sousa's attorney, went on to say that because the show went on, it turned into an uncontrollable disaster and caused the untimely deaths of now 10 people. Sousa is seeking $1 million in damages. In at number 7, Christian Parodies. Christian Parodies was one of the first people to file lawsuits after the event, suing Scott, Live Nation, and Score for negligence. Christian Parodies' lawsuit also blames Drake for part of the incident. The suit says that Drake, quote, came on stage alongside Travis Scott and helped incite the crowd before the horrific incident took place. He accuses Drake of continuing to perform with Travis Scott as the crowd became out of control and while the crowd mayhem continued. Parodies is suing over, quote, permanent injuries sustained because of the festival. He is reportedly seeking over $1 million in damages for injuries that he claims are permanent. The lawsuit alleged that the injuries and deaths were caused by negligence, carelessness, and recklessness of the defendants and all other parties responsible. And at number 6, Baharti Shahani. The 22-year-old was not deceased when she left the festival, but was pronounced brain dead days later while she was in the hospital. She was an electronic systems engineering student at Texas A&M University, and apparently the Travis Scott Festival was the first concert that she'd ever been to. She had attended the event with her sister, Namrata, and a cousin. The trio reportedly lost sight of each other amid the crowd surge. In a statement, an attorney for the family described her as a shining star in the community and a high-achieving college student about to graduate from Texas A&M University with high grades. Her family is suing Travis Scott and Live Nation for $20 million for the injuries that were sustained. The lawsuit accuses the defendants of negligence, gross negligence, and vicarious liability. The lawsuit continues, quote, the plaintiff's injuries were a predictable result of the defendant's conscious disregard for the safety and security of concertgoers. Halfway number 5, Axel Acosta. 21-year-old Axel Acosta was from a small town in Washington state and was studying computer science at Western Washington University. He traveled to Houston alone for the festival because he was a fan of Travis's music. After the festival, there was one deceased person who was not identified, which was later determined to be Axel. His father Edgar said he became worried after hearing of the Astroworld disaster and called hospitals and police after his son didn't answer his phone. After a photo circulated of the John Doe, Acosta's family identified him as deceased. The Acosta family are now among those suing Travis Scott and Astroworld organizers. Edgar Acosta said, quote, we are trying to make things change in these types of events because today it's me, but this could be you. And at number 4, Dinesh Beg. In a heroic act, Dinesh Beg saved his fiancée from harm and it cost his own life. The 27-year-old was a district manager for AT&T in the Dallas area and was reportedly engaged less than a month ago. According to his brother Basil, Beg died while trying to save his fiancée from being harmed by the surging crowd at Astroworld. Basil wrote about the incident, quote, last night he showed his courageous act to save my sister-in-law from these horrendous things that were being done. I have lost of words and in true trauma for this event. I was there and I wasn't able to save my brother. Basil accused Travis Scott of provoking the crowd and said in the statement, quote, people were hitting, pushing, and shoving and did not care for anyone's life. Beg's family has started a GoFundMe page and it's assumed that they will be filing a lawsuit. And at number 3, Patrick Stennis. Patrick Stennis is one of the injured concertgoers that is now suing Travis Scott and other companies that put on the festival. Stennis is suing Travis along with Cactus Jack Records and the Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation with claims that he was, quote, stepped on, crushed, and lost consciousness while he was pushed by the surging crowd. Stennis is now suffering physical pain, mental anguish, and disability lending to medical bills and lost wages. This is one of potentially thousands of people that will be suing based on injury. And at number 2, Ilhan Mohamud. One of the first lawsuits filed by law firm Crump and Hillard was from concertgoer Ilhan Mohamud. Mohamud is seeking at least $1 million in damages from the defendants, claiming that the concert promoters Live Nation and Score Holdings, as well as security contractor Contemporary Services Corporation, are mainly responsible for the tragedy. The suit says she was in the crowd, quote, when suddenly and without warning, she became trapped in the middle of a crowd surge. Apparently, as the crowd surged forward, she was pushed and shoved towards the front, while being suffocated when there was no more space to breathe. She said she was able to remain conscious and leave the crowd, but on her way out, she was forced to witness several other people who were being crushed and even losing their lives in close proximity to her. And finally, number 1, Noah Gutierrez. Noah Gutierrez is another attendee who was forced to watch those around him suffer serious injury and terror as a result of the crowd surge. Noah was apparently in the VIP section of the festival, but was left traumatized after the tragic events took place. The lawsuit was filed by Ben Crump, who is now representing a number of other attendees. Noah apparently went to help the injured while the festival was taking place. Attorney Ben Crump said in a statement, quote, "We are hearing horrific accounts of the terror and helplessness people experienced, the horror of a crushing crowd and awful trauma of watching people die while trying unsuccessfully to save them." Crump continued that he is seeking justice for his clients who were harmed physically or mentally from the preventable event.